Howdy Meeps, Rigoroga here, and you're you. I realized a while ago that I stopped saying that for some reason. Anyhow, hopefully you are still you, even though I was not saying it. But I hope the reminder was useful to you, in case you had forgotten that you are you. And I am today going to, well, I'm gonna try to play Fate solo. I have, in a way, I've been threatening to play this forever. One of the more popular videos on my channel, apparently, is the Fate Oracle video that I created. I had been thinking about Fate, and I was thinking about playing it, and decided to come up with an Oracle, even though I don't usually use Oracles that much when I'm converting on the fly. But I thought, it's been a couple of years now. I mean, you can go back and take a look. It's been a while since that video, and I have not played any Fate at all. And I have all of it. It's just ridiculous. I was a patron of Red Hat. I mean, not Red Hat, excuse me, Evil Hat. Completely different geek spheres. And I have tons of the worlds already, and then I've supported a couple bundles where I've gotten a bunch, and now I have also purchased for VTT, for Foundry, the Weird World News, which is one of three Fate worlds that are configured for Foundry VTT. There are apparently a bunch more for other VTTs. Hopefully more will come for Foundry. Yeah, anyhow, that's a conversation for another time, about why I prefer Foundry. But yeah, I'm just rambling, so why don't we just dive in and just see. I am, of course, I have no idea what I'm doing because I'm lazy and I don't play these games outside of recording them. Recording them is part of my deal with myself, where it'll gives by having a creative output, I am willing to give myself time to play these things. So I don't play these when I'm not streaming, and that means I have not played Fate at all. And so I'm gonna try, and we'll see. Yeah, so I have it set up. I have Foundry running, and this is the basic deal. So the quick start, find the button. We're going to turn on map pins. Yes. Okay, so that is on. Review the README handout. Okay, let's do that. Let's go to README. All right. So, Weird World News Foundry VTT module. This module includes the following. In the actors directory for ready-to-go player characters and associated tokens in the PCs folder, 6 foes plus 3 bonus foes and associated tokens in the foes folder, 6 NPC characters and associated tokens in the NPC folders, 6 more tokens to use however you choose in the MISC folder, 11 linked journal entries accessed from the Journal Entries tab, providing the entire contents. A few minor changes have been made to the original content to better fit the Roll20 format. Haha! So they did not properly search and replace Roll20 with Foundry VTT very well. Oops. Anyhow, so of the World Word News, A Fate World, first released by Evil Hat Productions as PDF. One welcome page, which for basic orientation and players and GMs, which we're reading right now, and then a playmat page using high resolution art and a changeable background, progressively revealing more of the adventure, which is a really cool feature. Actually, this will be the primary scene you and your players will use. The text is best browsed, starting with the contents handout. Certain sections are only visible to GMs, as are some of the GM characters. Of course, because I am solo playing this, all bets are off. I'll just do whatever the hell I want because That's what I say. It's my house. My house, my rules. Suggested macros for players. Quick macro for you to create for yourself is this chat macro. Roll 40F. This is a very simple macro that will roll 4 fate dice for you. Learn more about the VTT macros in the documentation. A script macro will allow you to do much more. Foundry VTT has a powerful macro capability. We have created a few macros to help simplify things for you. If you look in the lower left corner, you can see an icon, and so there is a macro for roll 40F, roll 40F reason PC. Add or subtract a modifier. The result will appear in Foundry chat window. Automatically roll. Actually, do I have modules set up? Do I have Dice So Nice? I do. Do I need anything else? I don't think I need anything else. And I do have those added. And I do also have the GM roll 40F reason GM macro. Only the GM can see the text in this shaded area. The adventure that is created for you is intended to be played on the scene called Playmat. There's a macro in the macro directory called Choose Playmat Background. This will allow you to choose different images to show inside the playmat frame. They're arranged to be shown chronological order as your players advance through the story. Drag it to the macro hotbar for easy access during play, and you can update the scenes on the fly. Your players will be suitably impressed, we are sure. There is also a quality of life macro to help keeping investigation notes on the playmat. The create text box will create a text box at the bottom of the notepad in the playmat. This will also activate the drawing select tool so you can easily position the new text where you would like it to be. You could grant your players, well, that doesn't matter because I'm the only player. Additionally, there's 3 roll table macros that are called by tables in the creating episodes journal entry. There are links within the journal entry to make use of them, so no need to place them on the macro hotbar. Okay, and then the playmat. As discussed, most of your session time will be spent on the playmat scene. There are 2 useful areas on this scene that can hold helpful info for your players. The notepad on the right is designed as a place to hold investigation notes for your group, to keep them on task and focused on the things they need to investigate to solve the mystery. Make use of the quality of life macro, create text box. Why do they call it quality of life macro? I don't know why you even need to call it that. Just call it make use of the create text box macro to quickly add notes to the pad as they work through the stages of the episode. Feel free to delete the little text that is there by default as a reminder. And then enable drawing select tool from the toolbar on the left side of the screen. Select the pencil icon, and then select drawings tool at the top of the, oh my god, that's complicated. Hover, okay, we'll figure that out, I guess. And then there's a smartphone on the left that can hold tokens or notes of potential suspects for the group to investigate. We've placed the 4 primary suspects for the Moon of the Mothman adventure included in this setting. They are currently hidden from the player's view. To reveal them, simply right-click on a token to show the HUD, and then select the toggle visibility icon in the upper right. Suggested modules. Oh, better text drawings? And permissions viewer. Okay, well, let's better text drawings and permission viewer and save the module setting. Okay, well, that's going to reload it. And we are back. Understood. Okay, so we really needed to also libwrapper. One more. Okay, and then let's go back to the README. So I've got those and I've added them. Okay, so that's the README. So, contents. So this is Weird World News, a world of adventure for Fate core system. André la Roche wrote and designed it with development from a bunch of people. So let's go ahead and do introduction, I guess. Introduction. This groovy world is a spooky place, man. Luckily, you and your friends are employed by the Way Out Weird World News Group. You investigate and publish exposés about the harshest cryptids that terrorize the rural countryside. More than half of the time, though, it's some bogus executor or landlord masquerading as a monster. These bozos think they can terrify others into leaving their business interests alone. But they also make your job much harder, since you never know whether you're about to discover the actual, factual bad boy or just another wannabe who's trying to drive down property values. But never fear, you have your pals, and you wander the countryside in your trusty old-timey vehicle, bravely sorting out fact from fiction. Just make sure that you always have a supply of courage cookies at the ready. You never know when you'll need a munchie to help you brave through the next wild ghoul coming your way. So sit back, pal, and let me tell you a bit about the weird world we live in. Like, everyone knows these things that go bump in the night, right? There's always been stories of strange and unexplainable things prowling the countryside. Whether it's Bigfoot, the Loch Ness Monster, the Jersey Devil ghost pirates, or pirate ghosts, weirdo things have been reported in just about every place on Earth. And you thought that modernization and scientific progress would change that? No way, Jose. People now complain of alien abductions, robots with minds of their own, and creatures of living electricity, and stolen elections. It's way harsh, to be sure, but the reality is that the stories are only getting stranger. The mystery solvers. But of course, a weird world practically cries out for intrepid and cool cats to help solve its mysteries. So starting in the late 60s, a subculture of young men and women in their late teens and early 20s began to roam the countryside. Their mission? To get to the bottom of these way out stories. Van sales soared, and groups of friends tried to make their name by investigating, chasing, trapping, and revealing the weirdos that they encountered, the imposters. Right after the subculture of mystery solvers formed, a truly weird thing happened. It turned out that most of the hauntings and strangeness complained of turned out to actually be fakery and fraud. Mystery solvers quickly recognized an emerging pattern. Reports of some monster or strange cryptid would surface, terrorizing some town, location, or business. The mystery solvers would investigate the spookiness, come face to snout with the monster, give chase or be chased, then finally trap the weird cryptid. But hold on for just a second and get this. It turned out that most of the time, the monster was really some landlord, businessman, or politician in disguise. They simulated strange supernatural appearances with rubber disguises and powers with mirrors, lasers, smoke bombs, helium balloons, springs in their boots, and other trickery. For some reason, they thought they could terrorize the local countryside to protect their business interests by driving out competition, lowering property values, ginning up tourism, or hiding other illegal activities like bank robbery. But mystery solvers always were able to turn them over to the local sheriff. Despite this, some people never learn, dude. The real deal. Now comes the sweetness, my friend. Although many a mystery solver in the late 60s and early 70s were bummed out by the number of fakes, very quickly they managed to find the real, actual, factual deal. Legitimate monsters and cryptids. Sometimes they realized that what they thought was a mask just wouldn't come off. Luckily, not all that is weird is bad. Although not too common, occasionally talking dogs, living cars, funky phantoms, unfrozen cavemen, and other strange beings take a liking to these groups of mystery solvers and decide to tag along. They bring their knowledge and expertise to the group to help solve the mysteries to come. More often than not, when real monsters were involved, the hauntings were misunderstandings. Motherly harpies were trying to defend their nest. An ooze monster was just hoping he could make friends in the human world. He totally thought that sliming people was how to shake hands. Or aliens landed just to hit up the latest electronic dance music festival because they liked the cool new beats. In each of these instances, the story was written, while creature and mystery solvers each went on their way. Easy peasy. But sometimes, very rarely, the real deal was also a real buzzkill. When captured, these creatures were taken to zoos or shipped off to Monster Island, wherever or whatever that is. I leave it up to your imagination, dear reader. So that is a different, that would be a different Fate world, Monster Island, I bet. Weird world news. Fast forward to today. The mystery-solving subculture of the 60s was such a hit, it eventually got corporatized into the news business. Way harsh, man. But hey, with corporatization came a paycheck for doing what you'd want to do anyways. So I guess you can't complain too much about it. Happy Labor Day! But anyway, nowadays, mystery solvers are employed by the weirdlies, a collective name for all the supermarket newspapers and news websites devoted to revealing the world's strangest to a larger audience. You and your friends are a field team of one of the weirdlies, the Weird World News. Over the last decade, WWN has gone from being top dog to underdog of the weirdly business. It still is mostly print-based and is only just starting to get web savvy. But that meant it took a major business hit. It's up to you and your pals to go out, investigate the strange and spooky hauntings and happenings of the world, report the stories, and save weird world news. So, what are you waiting for? Get out there, find, investigate, chase, trap, and reveal those monsters, real or fake. Okay, so the next thing is inspirations. Weird World News is inspired by many 70s Hanna-Barbera cartoons about teenage crime solvers. Many of these cartoons had the following common elements. Traveling group of teenagers with an unusual sidekick who solve mysteries of a seemingly supernatural nature with a disguised perpetrator. The traveling group. In these cartoons, the main characters were almost always traveling in some seemingly endless road trip across the country. This allowed them the freedom to never have to deal with continuing consequences of one story to the next, and gives them the ability to move on to a completely different adventure in a new locale with new faces. These cartoons seldom explain the reasons for this constant traveling, but Weird World News does. As the characters are part of a weird news team, it's their job to travel across the country and search out these weird happenings all around them. Of teenagers. The main characters in these cartoons are almost always teenagers. This helps explain their free-roaming nature and why they often make hot-headed decisions of questionable judgment. This age bracket is stretched out a tiny bit in Weird World News to include young adults, people in their early 20s. After all, the characters have to be old enough to be on the payroll of a major weird news organization. With an unusual sidekick. This is usually the part of the old Hanna-Barbera cartoons that proves the most memorable, whether it is the talking dog Scooby-Doo, the sentient car Speed Buggy, the unfrozen superpowered Captain Caveman, or the funky Phantom. There's always a sidekick that also serves as a mascot. This character usually brings an innocence and naivete to the group, while also serving as a reminder that the world is a much stranger place than meets the eye. In Weird World News, Griffey, the pygmy griffin, serves as the sidekick for the pre-generated characters. But feel free to create your own equally outlandish, impossible sidekicks who solve mysteries. The main characters need something exciting to do, and mystery solving happens to be pretty easy to understand. Sometimes it could be something as mild as a monster attempting to scare locals to something as daring as a theft of a priceless jewel. Whatever the reason, the main characters task themselves with solving a whodunit or whodunits, and returning the situation they stumbled upon to normal. Although normal is actually the mysteries in this world, I guess. In World World News, the element becomes incidental to the overarching drive of cracking the real story behind a haunting and reporting on it to the wider world. Of a seemingly supernatural nature, often, but not always, these shows posit the potential cause of the mystery to be solved as being supernatural or science fictional. This question creates a hook for the viewer who wants to find out whether the monster or oddity is every bit as odd as it seems from the outset. The concept is hardwired into the play structure of Weird World News. With a disguised perpetrator. Mostly, though, the perpetrator is a normal average human being in disguise. They're almost always terrorizing the area for their own benefit, trying to drive down prices, scare away competitors, procure an inheritance, or ward off people while they hunt for buried treasure. It's kind of a letdown. But it's also a subtly deep existential reminder that most of the world's real monsters are people driven by greed. Occasionally, though, these shows keep the audience and the characters on their toes by having the monster be an actual monster and not just another person in disguise. Weird World News explicitly allows for each mystery to go either way. Specific sources. If you're interested in learning more about the source material for this game and catching up on some of the vintage 70s cartoons, here's a quick rundown of the most noteworthy members of the genre. Scooby-Doo, Where Are You? Speed Buggy, Captain Caveman and the Teen Angels, Funky Phantom, Jabberjaw, Weekly World News. Though it's not a cartoon, the final major inspiration for this Fate World is the supermarket tabloid. Yep. Okay, so the only one I really remember is Scooby-Doo, Where Are You? I don't really remember the other ones. I must have watched them, though. That's weird. Okay, anyhow, so the next thing is character creation. So character creation mostly follows Fate Core, but with the following adjustments. Characters have fewer aspects, use aptitudes instead of skills or approaches, use conditions instead of consequences, and typically don't advance. Character archetypes. Characters from the source material for Weird World News mostly fall into a handful of archetypes. You don't have to create a character that fits into an archetype, but they may help you come up with character ideas. Although the old Hanna-Barbera cartoons often assigned characters to these archetypes along gender lines, don't feel burdened by this history. Create your own characters for World News based on what you find the most interesting. Play what you want. The leader. The leader is attractive, but not too attractive, smart, but not too smart, athletic, but not too athletic, and all around every man or every woman. The leader is able to connect with just about everyone they meet, and they're not afraid to speak their mind even when it makes them unpopular. They go with their gut, and they can step outside their comfort zone just long enough to get the job done. The leader is often close to the looker, given their similar values in navigating the social world, and listens closely to the thoughts and analysis of the lens. The looker, while by no means dumb or vapid, the looker prioritizes how they come across to the people around them. The looker makes sure that their clothes match the latest trends and styles, and that their manners are the epitome of class and politesse. The looker sees it as their mission to bring the group to wider legitimacy, making sure that it is respected by the vanillas of the world, the normies. This person is often closest to the leader, being able to smooth things over when the leader's sense of right and wrong causes them to stick their foot in their mouth. The looker often adores the quirky misfit nature of the luck. The lens. The lens represents the brains of the group, knowing all the minutiae of many subjects from physics to history to business. Given their natural curiosity, the lens tends to be the best investigator of the group, and helps the group stay on task and avoid wild goose chases. Being a lens is about feeling a passionate desire to know and understand the world. The lens is often surprisingly close with the loony, who shares the lens's desire to see the world from different viewpoints. The lens also sees it as their duty to help guide the leader in making good decisions. The loony. The loony does things a bit differently. Although fundamentally harmless, the loony doesn't worry too much about what society thinks of them. They find all of life fully immersive and interesting, but rarely bring rigor to more than one or two subjects such as food or exercise. The loony's good-natured disconnect from the stresses of life provides critical relief for the group when the cards are down. The loony often miraculously stumbles upon critical clues or factors that help the group win the day. This archetype often shares the lens's passion for experiencing the world, as well as the luck's easygoing love of life. The luck. The luck is often inhuman altogether, being a sentient animal or other seemingly unnatural creature. Despite this, they're the glue that holds the group together. They're often in the right place at the right time or in the wrong place at the right time. The luck also provides comic relief and stumbles upon just the right thing to say to make the others feel better when they need it most. They're close to the entire group, loving each and every one of their friends. Also, as a fellow misfit, though, the luck is often especially close to the loony. Aspects. Give your character 3 aspects: a high concept, a trouble, and a motivation. The motivation describes their desire to investigate and report upon the paranormal. It might be, I must become the ultimate trap maker. I shall unmask every fake weirdo to save the world news from going under. Or even, hey, it beats a desk job. Aptitudes. Instead of skills of Fate Core or the approaches of Fate Accelerated, characters in Weird World News use aptitudes. Aptitudes are the halfway point between skills and approaches. More pointed than approaches, but less diverse than skills. An aptitude represents both what you're doing and how you're doing it. There are 4 aptitudes in Weird World News: bamboozle, entrap, investigate, and run. Choose 2 aptitudes rated average, 1 rated fair, and 1 rated good. Bamboozle. Bamboozle is the other way that PCs navigate around and trick the monsters that are after them. Characters can briefly confuse or misdirect them by acting in silly and outlandish ways, whether by pretending to be the maitre d', acting like a wax statue, or donning sheets and pretending to be an even scarier ghost. Bamboozle applies only to using direct social means to confuse and misdirect others, as opposed to entrap, which controls for the reliability and success of devices or tricks which contain the monsters. Wow, that's a weirdly written sentence. Bamboozle is one of the best ways to gain the upper hand. Entrap is one way for the PCs to subdue the monsters or other NPCs thereafter. Examples of using entrap include creating elaborate Rube Goldberg-like devices, knocking over a vat of saltwater taffy, leading a monster over a pit trap, grabbing them in a wrestling hold, or making them wait in line at the DMV. Those aren't really Rube Goldberg or elaborate devices, but I get the point, I guess. Investigate. Investigate lets the PCs hunt down and piece together clues, winding their way towards the cryptid monsters they are searching for, and determining whether the monster is the real deal or just a pretender trying to scare people away. Following footprints, turning up fur examples, and intuiting a monster's likely habitat and lair are all examples of using investigate. And run. When the PCs get in over their head, cornered by the monster, one of their best bets is to run. That was not the right noise. Anyhow, to get some distance and eventually gain the upper hand. Characters must run just long enough to wear the monster down, or they might end up being the ones doing the chasing. Available knowledge. Weird World News is designed for light-hearted quickie sessions, so the aptitudes are few, focusing only on what's relevant in the 4 scenes of an episode. For actions outside their 4 aptitudes, the characters are capable of feats requiring common or even slightly uncommon knowledge. Examples of common knowledge include basic food preparation, driving, and drawing a simple diagram. Examples of uncommon knowledge include hang gliding, scuba diving, and cattle rustling. For actions requiring technical or specialized knowledge, such as operating a particle accelerator, conducting a trial, or cracking a safe, assume that a character can do such a thing only if it's related to one of their character aspects. I wonder about using entrap for that, for complicated stuff. So for stunts, characters in World News can choose stunts from Fate Core and from the following handful of brand new stunts. As in Fate Core, you get to choose 3 free stunts, and you can buy more stunts by spending refresh. Your character starts with a refresh of 3. Animal mascot. You are the mascot of the group, the face and name everyone knows and love. Once per scene, you can Declare a story detail about a bystander fawning over you without spending a fate point. Courage cookie. You carry around edible goods that help you ward off fear and anxiety, allowing you to, and they're edibles, allowing you to focus on the task at hand. Whenever you invoke an aspect to re-roll your dice, you can choose to re-roll a second time. If you do, you must use the second result. Grand Relevator. You live for the moment when you reveal the true identity of the latest monster. When the monster's identity is revealed, you can spend a fate point to declare 2 story details about the monster's motivations and background. Jitter Jinkies! You have a good sense for when a monster is about to give chase. You gain +2 to your first run roll in a scene when chasing after or running from a monster. Let's get on with it. Your impatience is a virtue. When you create an advantage to help your friends by pestering them, complaining, or hurrying them along, these friends gain +3 instead of +2 the first time they invoke the aspect. Prima donna, you hunger for the spotlight so much that you sometimes do foolish things for the added attention. Once per session, when you accept a compel, you can earn another fate point. Oh, that's cool. Quick change. You are unbelievably fast at changing into disguise or costume. Once per scene, you can declare that you've immediately changed into a disguise, as long as no one is looking your way. Rock the ascot. You wear a signature piece of clothing, an ascot, glasses, pocket square, whatever you decide. Whenever you invoke an aspect, you can spend another fate point to gain +3 instead of +2. If you can describe how your signature piece of clothing helps you accomplish your task. Describing how to use an ascot is like, what the hell? I mean, the best part is you could use it like a ribbon, like a series of unfortunate events. Actually, that's a good way too. You can tighten your ascot to focus your mind. Trap Master. You are the go-to person for making and setting traps. You gain +2 to create advantages within trap related to containing the monster during a trap scene. Stress and conditions. Your character starts with 1 stress track with 3 boxes. Instead of consequences, characters in Weird World News use conditions. By default, your character gets the following conditions, but feel free to give them unique conditions based on their concept. 1 is growling stomach, 1 shivering, 2 hungry, and 2 panicked. What are conditions? Conditions are described in the Fate System Toolkit. If you do not have that book, I do have that book. Here's a brief overview. Conditions are either fleeting or sticky. Marking a fleeting condition absorbs 1 stress. While marked, the fleeting condition is a character aspect, and it only clears once you've had a chance to rest for a few minutes. Likewise, marking a sticky condition absorbs 2 stress, counts as a character aspect, and lasts until you've had some serious downtime, like taking your lunch break. Taking out characters. Weird World News is designed to be a lighthearted, fun game for all ages. It is never appropriate to kill a character when narrating how a character gets taken out. If every PC is taken out, then the group moves back to the previous scene in the episode. Advancement. Unlike in Fate Core, characters in Weird World News don't advance and grow. They'll always have roughly equal capabilities from episode to episode. However, if your group wants, you can take season breaks. Season breaks might occur whenever real life gets too busy, such as around major holidays or the summer when everyone's traveling. This time away from the table is reflected inside the campaign, as the characters all go their own ways for a period of time. When you return from a season break, you'll want to describe what the characters did when they were away from the group. GMs, you may even allow the players to rewrite 1 or more aspects, swap their aptitude ratings, or change their stunts to reflect the experiences their characters went through during the season break. Okay, episode structure. Episode structure. Each episode of Weird World News follows a well-defined structure. GMs, you'll want to familiarize yourself with the structure so your games pop, flow, and move at a zany pace. That may be too much to ask me. The more familiar with it you become as you run each episode, the easier it will be to run later episodes. But keep in mind, the structure is just a guide. At any point, feel free to allow the group to get into trouble unrelated to moving the episode forward. Offer them compels, give them interesting NPCs to meet, frighten them with a brief encounter with the monster they'll that'll send them running to the safety of the van. The episode structure is meant to help your game, not hinder it. Each episode is divided into 5 scenes in a fixed order: the hook, the investigation, the chase, the trap, and the reveal. On failure. Since permanent failure is often not found in the source material, just as serious bodily injury isn't, true failure is rare to non-existent in Weird World news. An appropriate major cost for failing rolls is adding a new negative aspect to play that the GM can compel or invoke against the players. For instance, failing a roll might cause the PCs to become hated by the locals, or amusement park they are chasing the monster through might experience a blackout. That's a cool one. GMs, you can even draw on these negative aspects during closing narration in the reveal, narrating the unintended consequences caused by the character's bungled attempts at solving the mystery. Set pieces. You may have realized by now, Weird World News is heavily inspired by Scooby-Doo, Where Are You?, and the many other 70s cartoons, although you and your group don't need to be familiar with the source material to have a good time running and playing Weird World News. Being familiar with this cartoon and its legion of spin-offs and imitators will help you narrate episodes and set up scenes. In particular, you might want to make heavy use of the set pieces common to these cartoons to frame the action in your scenes. Examples include a hallway full of doors during the chase scene, where the monsters or PCs enter one door only to emerge from another seemingly disconnected door. So you're going to do your French bedroom comedy. Other common set pieces are gator-filled swamps, where their vehicle might break down, abandoned amusement parks, where they can give chase down the monsters in a roller coaster, or even the mine cars in abandoned mines. The hook. The hook is your meaty introduction to the players, the thing that gets their investigative juices flowing and sets them about to monster hunting. The hook is the briefest scene of the episode, usually lasting 5 to 10 minutes at most. To begin the hook, read out the hook that you have generated earlier. For example, the phantom werewolf is terrorizing the college. Then briefly describe the locales being terrorized. How big or small is the town? What are some noteworthy buildings and landmarks? What exactly has the monster been doing to stir up trouble and gather attention? Basically, tell them what's going on, who's been affected, where they can begin their investigation as part of the World War News crew. Once you're done, move on to the investigation. The investigation is where the PCs really put their sleuthing skills to test. First, introduce the PCs to each of the suspects you created earlier. Make sure the suspects are tied to the goings-on of the monster's activity. Whether the suspects own the land that the monster's been on, or simply work on it, or are themselves investigating the monster. Primarily, all suspects should have some economic ties to the monster's activity, giving a reason that any single one of them might be the monster in disguise. By now, you've likely decided on whether the monster is authentic or just a human suspect in disguise. If it's a fake, find subtle ways of providing hints about who done it, but make sure that you don't give it away. In any scene with the monster, make sure there's at least one suspect present other than the actual perpetrator. In this way, you can maintain the mystery of whodunit and keep the players guessing about the true identity of the monster until the very end of the episode, unless they're taking notes and good at playing Clue. During the investigation, the PCs must seek out clues to help them learn where the monster is located, how it does what it does, if it's a human in disguise, and what goings-on might be motivating it to take action. Just as importantly, the investigation gives the PCs the opportunity to explore their new surroundings, meet the NPCs, and get into some side trouble as they accept compels. You might even want to have the monsters swoop in and scare the PCs before running off, the perfect way of introducing them to their new quarry face to face. The PCs gather clues by creating advantages with Investigate. Each created aspect represents a clue about the monster's activities, locations, or even true identity, if it's someone in disguise. These aspects last until the end of the episode. Once the PCs have gathered 3 clues, they move on to the chase. This whole process will likely take 45 minutes to an hour of real-world time, though a different amount of time might pass in the game world. The chase. The PCs finally encounter the monster, or more appropriately, the monster finds the PCs. Naturally, it's a chase, whether it's the monster chasing the characters or the other way around, or most likely each side warring over the upper hand and chasing after one another. The emphasis is on each side trying to wear the other down. The monster tries to scare the PCs off its trail, and the PCs are trying to lure the monster into a trap. During the chase, the PCs must take out the monster. They might attack the monster by donning disguises, setting up fake signs, painting fake tunnels into walls, knocking doors onto the monster, and engaging in other forms of trickery. The PCs use run to defend against the monster's attack and to overcome obstacles that pop up. If the PCs take out the monster, they move on to the trap phase. If all PCs are taken out, or concede to the monster, then the group returns to the investigation with their stress tracks and consequences cleared. Rather than needing to gather 3 clues again, they'll need to just gather 1 clue to find where the monster has gone to. The chase should take between 30 and 45 minutes. The trap. The trap presents the final obstacles for the PCs to close in on their quarry. After having worn it down during the chase, the PCs must find some way to contain the monster. Run this as a contest. The final role of the contest is to set up and spring the trap itself. So one of the players must roll to overcome within trap. The monster, in turn, rolls to avoid the trap, strain against it, and attempt to break free. If the group wins the contest, they move on to the reveal. If the monster wins the contest, the group returns to the chase and clears all their stress and consequences. The trap should last about 10 to 15 minutes. The reveal. Now comes the part that the players have been waiting for. Who done it? Is their quarry really a monster, or just another pretender wearing a rubber mask? Wah, wah. Ideally, GMs, you've already decided whether the monster is the real deal or not, or you could use this moment to craft an outcome that's appropriate to the PC's actions and approaches in investigating and trapping the monster. Once you've revealed the true identity of the monster, turn things over to the players, letting them narrate the resolution of the story. What kind of news report do they broadcast? Is it a biting expose? Does it tug at the heartstrings? If the monster was a suspect in disguise, what happens to them? Are they taken away by the sheriffs, or is their reason for donning a costume so compelling that they are allowed to return to their everyday life? Likewise, if the monster was in fact the genuine article, what becomes of it? Is it released into the wild to make a new home for itself? Likewise, why was it terrorizing the local townsfolk to begin with? What will make it change its ways? Although it's tempting to answer these questions yourself as the GM, it makes for a more satisfying conclusion to turn the answers over to the group. They've earned it. Just think of it as being taken out of the episode, since each episode of Weird World News is intended to be a standalone adventure. You needn't worry about their narration impacting any ongoing plot threads or story arcs. The reveal should take about 10 to 15 minutes. And play advice. So, play advice. Weird World News plays best if each episode stands alone, although the underlying premise remains the same. A group of news folk out to investigate the country's strange happenings. Each episode does little to impact the world or the characters. Much like the source material that inspires Weird World News, each episode is about zany hijinks and providing laughs for the players. Oh, I'm going to have to step up, I guess. I have to cause myself to laugh. Because this might be jarring for players who are used to an unfolding story or developing a world, take care to spend plenty of time both easing into play and winding it up. Since the only true continuity across the episodes are the characters, as they exist in a kind of stasis, make sure to give the players plenty of opportunities to roleplay and highlight those off-the-wall personalities. One way to run games of Weird World News is as a sort of palate cleanser, either a one-shot or a series of a few episodes. This is often appropriate after ending a long and emotional campaign. Having the group focus on lighter-hearted, less continuity-driven play is a good way to keep your regular gaming night going as you try to figure out what you want to play for your next longer-term campaign. One way to add variety to each session is to occasionally have guest stars show up and tag along with the gang. The guest star might be a fictional celebrity or, and this promises to be the more fun option, a real-world celebrity. This gives you an opportunity to add a little fun by including caricatures of known celebrities, and also allows you to emulate Scooby-Doo, Where Are You?, which included frequent guest appearances from celebrities. One word of caution, though, be careful not to have the episode suddenly revolve around the celebrity and get derailed by their personality. The celebrity's presence should be just another quirky fact of life for a weird news crew. Now, playing with no GM. Since all episodes of Weird World News follow the same structure, you can play without the need for a GM, with only a few minor modifications. At the beginning of an episode, determine which player will assume GM duty for the hook. Whenever you move to the next scene, give GM duty to another player. That is not playing without a GM, that is rotating the GM duty. That's different. While a player has GM duty, their PC will either be less blah blah blah, giving GM duty over to different players, blah blah blah. If you're playing without a GM, the identity of the monster is always determined during the reveal. The player with the GM duty for the reveal gets to decide on their identity while the players narrate as normal. Yeah, that is not playing with a no GM. That's playing with a rotating duty of a GM. I mean, I get the point, but that's not actually what that is. Okay, anyhow. All right, well, that is the introductory material. And so I guess the next thing would be to start the actual play. So, yeah, I'll do that in my next session. And thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time. Bye.